Pledge of Allegiance. And Christy, do you want to start us off this evening?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is the approval of minutes for February 12th, 2025. Is there a motion? Motion made. Is there a second? Perfect. Motion made and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. None opposed? No abstentions. Thank you, Eric, for checking. We do not have any public input this evening. Just before this meeting, we had our student recognitions. From RCS, we had Eden Hubbard and Aubrey Hermes. From ACES, we had Cameron Lopes and Brody Roshi. We had from ARMS, Gabriella Roussel and Lily Lichtenberger. From the high school, we had Emily King and Abigail Strunk. And our Subway Scholar athletes this evening were Carly Chase and Sonia Arroyo. Congratulations to you all. Next, we have our student representative here this evening. Thank you so much.
I have the March highlights for the Athol High School. The Student Council put on a student versus staff basketball game on Wednesday, March 12th. 23 staff members from across the district and 28 students from the high school participated in the fun, competitive community night. Student Council also raised about $800 from this event. On March 7th, Emily King and Ethan Okiki competed in the regional science fair at WPI. Emily King's algae pumpkin bioplastic, a sustainable alternative to conventional plastics, qualified for the state science fair. Ethan Okiki's project, Extraction Hive, did not qualify but is able to be directly entered into the state science fair as one of our 2 slots from the Athol High School. On Wednesday the 18th, 26 juniors attended the 22nd Annual Junior Symposium at Mount Wachusett Community College. At the symposium, juniors were able to gain information on applying to colleges and accessing financial aid. Lastly, the Literacy Club is getting a newspaper running again at the high school.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Next, we have unfinished business, and we do not have anything listed there. This evening, under new business, we have a vote to accept the collaborative agreement, which is in your packet. If you've had an opportunity to review it, if not, please do so now. Otherwise, we will look for a motion to accept the collaborative agreement as presented. Motion made and seconded. Are there any discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you so much. Moving down in your packets, you'll see under the communications, we have the district enrollment, and we'd like to, is Dan here this evening? Are you going to fill in for Dan? Is somebody?
Anthony's
Anthony's
here.
going to fill in?
I believe we were actually discussing whether or not we were going to continue to have the presentation format of the technology update.
Okay. Do you want to move over?
Maybe a little, thank you. I kind of put that to the committee, whether or not the technology update will be provided in your package monthly. However, our tech consultants that oversee the company, that oversee the works of the district, they're happy to speak to it on a monthly basis. However, I don't know if that's what the committee would prefer, or if they would prefer to just have it in advance and have it in their package and then ask questions. So I'm not sure.
Is there any motion to be made to have a verbal presentation every month, or is just a written presentation okay for now? Anybody have a thought?
Written's fine.
Written's okay?
Questions, you could certainly bring it up.
Everybody agree to written's okay and in the packet? And if we have questions, somebody would be here to answer?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll make sure that there's a rep here to answer any questions during that section, but then they won't have to come up and present. I see Anthony in the back, very disappointed, but he was eager to come up and present, but we'll let you stay there for now. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, excellent. So moving down, we have the financial statement and approval of accounts. The first thing we have is with Nancy, so turn it over.
So the first thing I have is requesting a vote from the school committee
So under Article 23 of the ATA contract, it is stipulated that as of July 1st, 2025, that the committee will cover 70% of health insurance plan costs, with employees being responsible for 30%. However, the language does not specifically address retirees. So in order to implement this change for retirees, a vote is required by the school committee, because we have to notify them within 60 days prior of this change.
So is there a motion to include the retirees in the healthcare contribution rates of 70/30 going forward?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any abstentions?
Can you put me down for an abstention as well?
Perfect. And we're on to excess and deficiency.
Thank you.
Yep.
So our excess and deficiency was certified as of July 1st, 2024. It came in at $515,281. $515,281.
Just to be clear, I do want the committee to understand as well that that total number for E and D includes the 400, right? So we deducted $450,000 from E and D to put into the budget for this year to ensure when we were worried about where things stood financially, we did put that $450,000 into the budget for this year. So it would have been around that 900,000 mark, but we put it into the budget. That being said, at this point, we're not really sure how much of it we will end up using for the budget, so I don't want to say that it will roll right back into E&D, but there is a chance that some of that will continue to go back down for next year's certification.
And then the audit report?
So in your packet, you'll find the fiscal year 23 financial audit that's been completed. It did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, and it's been filed, and I filed it with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, which is required. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Yep. So we will be having our public hearing on April 16th. But what we thought we would do is review it with you as to where we stand at this point in time. And this is our presentation that we plan to present on April 16th. But keep in mind that there could be fluctuations and there could be changes between now and then, but this is where we stand as of this point in time. So where I'm going to start the presentation is I'm going to pick up from when I presented to you in January. What I presented to you was what the leadership requested for new above-level requests. So of those requests, unfortunately, 1.4 million of them didn't make it into the budget for fiscal year 26. So what I briefly did is kind of broke out for you what didn't make it into the budget of what I presented to you back in January. And that's what this breaks out for you here. I'll break it out for you quickly. So you got staff Chromebooks and interactive displays didn't make it into the budget. Several positions that were requested didn't make it into the budget. Dean and students at arms and ACEs, school counselor at arms, assistant principals, assistant pupil service director, Spanish teacher at arms, behavioral support position, and then there was a foundations curriculum that included 4 additional paras for that curriculum in particular. And just as a side note, that doesn't include 4 additional paras for the IAG grant. That's totally separate. I think there was some confusion about that, so I just wanted to clarify. And some miscellaneous office supplies. And then BA didn't make it in, floater nurse, nurse leader, high jump mats for athletics, and an extra late bus Originally, the budget was built with 2 late buses, but we only currently use 1 late bus, so we took 1 out. A majority of the preventative maintenance for facilities was taken out, and we lowered electricity by looking at it and forecasting it out. And out-of-district tuitions, we actually had change with one of our students, so that was able to be decreased. So then I wanted to show you what we did keep in the budget. And so this slide shows you by school what we kept in the budget. One thing to also keep in mind that when I say we kept in the budget, this could also have, some of these items are being paid from the DESE one-time funds. So it's a mix of both. So for Royalston Community School, Lexia is an add-on to the reading intervention software platform. Bridges or Eureka. We currently have Eureka, we're piloting Bridges. One or the other will happen. It's a new request if the district goes with Bridges. For Athol Community Elementary School, same thing, Lexia and the Bridges or the Eureka. Athol High School, pottery wheels, supplies for extracurricular activities. We have our NEASC visit that will have additional costs. And for athletics, uniforms and shoulder pads. Pupil services, we kept in the half FTE contracted translator. And for instructional technologies, PC for administrators and administrator support. And for the business office, the software for onboarding and time and attendance to get it automated. This gives you an overview of all the categories of the fiscal year 26 budget. So the full budget amount is $37,933,106. I broke it out by the function code here. Key budget drivers. These are the main things as to what is increasing our budget. Transportation is a significant factor. It's increasing for special education transportation and for foster care transportation. It's increasing significantly. It's had a huge effect on our budget. Special education alone is increased significantly for speech and language, occupational therapy, paraprofessionals have increased, FTEs, med therapy services. For salaries, we did have the additional elementary school dean that was added at the end of last year for ACES and RCS. Miscellaneous duties and stipends in summer school programs that weren't in the fiscal year 25 budget or an incurrence in fiscal year 25, but will be for 26. And then you have your increases for your contracted ATA increases at 2.5% and then additional lane changes, and you have your non-union increases. Our health insurance is a huge factor. Our health insurance has increased by 19.9%, and then along with that is the shift of a 70-30 participation structure. To help mitigate the rising costs for employees, we are exploring different alternative plan options. So we're not looking to get rid of any plans, so we'll be offering the same plan with that large increase, but then we plan on bringing in a higher deductible option that will decrease the monthly rate for the employees. We're still working it out with our insurance providers, but that's the direction we're going at this point in time, to hopefully be able to help with that cost. One of the things that Matt and I really wanted to cover and go over is the grouping under the Student Opportunity Act. So this slide shows you how the grouping is calculated and what grouping the school has been in since fiscal year 22. So for fiscal year 22 and 23, we were in group 10. In 24 and 25, we moved to group 11. And now for 26, we moved back to group 10. So to be in group 11, you need to be at a 70%, and we are at a 69.01%. That comes out to be 17 families. So by moving from 11 to 10, we're incurring a loss of $956,647.
To be clear, Nancy and I have been communicating with both Senator Comerford and Representative Whips. We've been in touch with the Department of Ed again. We are reviewing their numbers, we're reviewing our processes, and we are hopeful we might be able to see some movement. The odds on us getting back to Group 11 totally are, they're not non-existent, but they're slim. I'm not going to lie to the committee. Nancy and I were a little hopeful this morning, and we do have, I won't say there's no chance at all, right? But as I said to Nancy, she was very hopeful this morning because we did identify discrepancies between the sheet that they sent us and our records. However, last year we went through this, and every person we send them, they come up with a reason why they can't count. And down to the point where some of the arguments were kids were recorded by other districts that were, you know, they were claimed by other districts, and Desi had said, well, the paperwork came in this way, so they're staying claimed by this district, and we can't give you, you know, credit for the student. And we were like, this isn't making sense. We're going to have those conversations again, because there are already a number of students that they told us were claimed in other districts that we have on our attendance rosters. So we'll argue that argument. We're going to review our homeless and foster families through our portal and make sure that our count's aligned with their count. And we are continuing to try to do supplemental low-income calculation forms that we would have to submit to the state. But I wouldn't say anything above a 10% chance right now, but there's some. Sorry. It's just.
Thank you. Yep.
But the budget is prepared accordingly this time, and we're going into it knowing where we stand, so.
If we get it, we'll go back to page 1.
That's exactly where we go.
Yep. The next slide shows you a comparison of the town assessments versus where the assessments were last year and to where they are this year. So I broke it out by categories. Your first category is your required minimum contributions that, you know, automatically are applied. So for the town of Athol, that increased by 5.35%, $215,996. And for the town of Royalston, it increased 7.47%, $50,652. Then you have your debt expense, which is the bond that we have from 2021. So that actually went down for Athol by 4.39%. And then for Royalston, it went up by 11% and $777. And then lastly is our transportation expense. So for the town of Athol, it's lowered by $3,400, and the same for the town of Royalston.
I do want to just point out, as you turn to page 8 in your package, you'll see that another summary of the town support and state funding totals. In this, you can see what their actual numbers were in the Athol and Royalston assessments for FY25, and you can see the actual amount of the change. And essentially, so in the last column, you can see the dollar change. So you can see for Athol, the dollar change in their assessment is $205,032, and for Royalston, it's $47,954. I want to refer back to page 7 and make sure that the community and the committee understand clearly that the increases that we gave the towns are aligned almost entirely just with their minimum local contribution increases. So you can see that Athol's entire local contribution went up $215,996. Their debt dropped by $7,527, but their total assessment still went up less than the difference, only $205,000. So I do want to be clear, this took a lot of work on behalf of the district, and we do always want to come into the budget season making our numbers palatable for the communities. But I will say, we did absorb some other expenses, like the only place that we could lower the town costs are in transportation, because they really pay nothing above minimum local contribution. And I can't pretend that our transportation costs aren't going up next year. Nancy just mentioned they are a driver. So as we are not able to continue to send our transportation costs to the towns, because we're trying to keep their increases at a reasonable level, which I respect and understand, just know we're still paying more for transportation, and that doesn't come from anywhere else. So those are some of the things that we may have to start either cutting down in other areas, because we're putting that money toward transportation. But again, it's all in an effort to work with the communities, and I just want them to understand that this school committee and this district do their very best to make sure that our budget is aligned with what they can do. So, thank you for that. Nancy? Sorry.
So this page shows the other revenue sources that help contribute towards the budget, which are mainly our revolving. I won't go through each one unless you have questions. What it does is it breaks out for you what was put into the budget for '25, what we're projecting to put into the budget for '26, and the difference. I highlighted some yellow and some white. So the differences are what's in yellow is what's actually built into the general fund, and what is yellow is what is outside of the general fund. And it just has to do with the totals of how you vote the budget. Couple other key points we have on here is the supplemental reserve is just listed on here, so you know the balance. We're not using it for fiscal year '26 budget, but it's for $465,751. And then we are hopeful to roll over some grants for fiscal year '25 for $400,000 to put towards next year's budget. And then we have E&D quite low on here. We have it for $50,000. And school choice we have quite low on here too. We currently have it at $221,170. If there are fluctuations with expenses between now and April 16th of when you vote, those will probably be the two buckets where we'll have to hit to increase them to kind of keep us where we need to land, unless we're able to figure something else out. But those are the two areas that will probably most likely change between now and April 16th.
And I would just like to add, it's obviously noted that there's a significant decrease in the use of these funds. These two big buckets, remember, are our non-recurring revenues. So we have this school choice bank, but why did we lower it from $500,000 this year to $200,000 next year? We're hoping we don't spend the $500,000 this year, and we don't want to be spending our school choice money to run our operating budget. Because if we get into the pattern of that, it won't sustain staff, nor will E&D. So we are trying to just put those in and lower the numbers that are coming from those sources.
And that is the presentation. And then the rest of the next slide is just the timeline. So the timeline is on April 16th, you vote, and actually on that same day, the House Ways and Means vote on the governor's budget. We won't hear by the time you guys vote. It usually takes late in the next day. But then we'll have more of an idea with our revenue and where we'll stand. And then the Athol town meeting is Monday, June 9th, and the Royalston town meeting is Saturday, June 7th. And the rest of the slides just go over a brief of district enrollment, a history of the minimum local contributions for the town. I kind of gave a description of the revenue sources, if anyone had any questions as to what the sources are used for, and a history of Chapter 70. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have reports of the committee, reports of the chair. Don't have anything to report, but I wanted to say quickly, thank you, Brittany. Brittany's last meeting is with us this evening, our full committee meeting. Thank you for the last 3 years. Thank you for being the vice chair. Thank you for all of the hours that you have put into making everything flow so beautifully during negotiations. I don't know what we're gonna do without you. But we hope, we hope that you, continue to serve the community in any capacity that you can, and you have been extremely valuable to us. So thank you so much for all that you did.
I have to jump in. Well, I'm sorry. I am sorry that I interrupted the applause, but I do have to jump in and just offer my own gratitude to Brittany. I can say, since I've come into the district, she has been extremely active in her role in school committee, and the amount of time that she has dedicated from herself and her family to put into the policy subcommittee and the negotiations subcommittee, it is innumerable hours that she has spent, and I can say very confidently, I don't think that we would have made it through negotiations if it weren't for Brittany's organization and record keeping and her articulation at the table, because all of those skill sets came in tremendously. They were invaluable, and honestly, I probably would have walked away from the table if Brittany hadn't been there, because she was managing all of the documents and the process. So again, I can't thank you enough, Brittany, for all of the time and work that you've put in for the district, and you will be missed.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Moving down, budget and finance. Lee?
I think everything was covered in the budget presentation. You do have the minutes from the January meeting in your packet.
Facilities?
We met this evening and just went over some updates. Things are going as well as we can get through them all.
Awesome, thank you. Negotiations, Brittany?
We are still in negotiations for the superintendent's contract, but things are going well, and we are hopefully almost through that process.
Academic excellence.
Nothing to report.
Public relations.
Just an update, the vision of the graduate focus groups were happening last week, and I believe surveys will be sent out in the upcoming weeks to kind of wrap it all up. So we should have some ideas from that very soon.
Just to jump in, I believe, to Laura's point, we are hopeful to get the surveys out by some point next week. And I am also hopeful that, I know Mr. King and I were in AOTV studio today recording a little Bears Den session on some of what the work is around our vision of a graduate. So I'm hopeful to get that, depending on when it's all edited, but possibly by the end of the week this week, that will go out. And then, as mentioned, hopefully the survey will follow shortly.
That's good. Policy, Brittany?
You have in your packets the minutes from our January meeting, as well as the policy BEDH for a second read. The minutes for our March meeting will be next month, but just to give you all an update, we have started the process of working with MASC for all of our policy revisions. We got through Section A last week, and so things are moving well. Though Tracy does tell me that Section A is the quickest one, so we shouldn't expect to get through a section a night. Exactly, but it's a great start. I think there's a clear process forward, and I think there's been good conversations so far at the table about all of this process. So,
Great. And that leads us to committee member referrals. Lee, do you want to start us off this evening?
The only thing I really had, and like I said, I don't know if it was covered I was unable to get the facilities, but will there be a plan to place like a line item on the agenda moving forward in the next month or so? It says MSBA update or something, just to have a recurring, okay,
We absolutely can do that.
okay.
Frank?
None here.
Thanks, Frank. Brittany?
I just wanted to say a brief thank you to you all. It's been an honor to work with you all over the last 3 years. It's been a pleasure to serve the community in this role, and I appreciate all of the nice words that were said, but I assure you, you all will be just fine when I'm not here. But just really a heartfelt thanks, because it's been a really great experience, and I look forward to certainly still staying engaged. I still have students in the district, and I will absolutely be rooting for you all.
Emily? You gotta say something about go to Wendy's when we're
Oh,
done.
okay. Aces. Yeah, she can do it.
They had it all organized.
I went at lunch just for you. Yeah, of course. Laura, do you have anything? Awesome.
Saturday, March 22nd, RCS is hosting the annual Chet Hall Memorial Scholarship Breakfast, starting at 8 a.m. Chet was a dedicated member of the community and spent many years as a school committee member. Join us for pancakes, raffles, and fun celebrating Chet's memory. All proceeds go to the Chet Hall Memorial Scholarship Fund, which supports scholarships for Athol High graduates. Saturday, the 22nd, from 8 to 11.
All right, so I will say it. If you haven't eaten yet, go to Wendy's tonight. We're going for the ACES PTO fundraiser.
Nothing? Awesome. Eric? Awesome. Okay, we do have a quick meeting for executive session this evening. We will not be coming back open into public session. I'll read this. Pursuant to MGL C21A3, to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions in contract negotiations with non-union personnel for the superintendent's position, requires a roll call vote. Eric, would you start us off? Yes.
Christy Waymire, aye.
Kylie Hall, aye.
Tammy Duquette, aye. We'll adjourn over in this room. It should only take a few minutes.
Wait, you're good. I told Russ, I'll be